I wanted to move into marijuana legalization, and I do want to let you guys know that later on in the hour, we will talk a little bit about what various states are proposing when it comes to improving healthcare. But for now, let's talk about marijuana legalization because it's one of my favorite topics, even though I live in California where it's legalized for recreational use. Now, let's begin with Missouri, where you literally have 3 different proposals,
basically schemes for how you would go about legalizing.
Exactly. So there are different ideas of how it would be taxed. Let's start off with Missouri Amendment 2. It would impose a 4% sales tax on marijuana to fund the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services. Sounds pretty damn good to me. Now, Amendment 3, though, would impose a higher tax. You have a 15% sales tax on marijuana to fund a new medical research center. I am not against taxing marijuana. We had a quick discussion about that on the show, main show yesterday. I think it makes all the sense in the world to tax marijuana sales. The question is, how much do you want to tax it? Now, Proposition 3 in Missouri imposes a 2% sales tax on marijuana with the tax revenue split among veterans, drug treatment, and early childhood education.
Yeah, look, so one of those could theoretically win. I mean, all of them could go down hypothetically, but we know where the momentum is at nationally on this issue. I do think it's interesting. Maybe this happens in other areas, but I'm having a hard time coming up with it. Maybe you can. But why is it like, okay, we can legalize marijuana, but only if the money goes directly for this one thing, this great thing. So just think about that. Don't think about marijuana, which even though we know you're in support of, we're still going to imply is a hard sell by making you think about childhood health care or a senior center or badminton courts or whatever. Like, I'm not saying it's bad to fund those things with this tax money. Sure, do that. But hypothetically, you could just tax it. And then the money goes to the government and they spend it on whatever. It seems like sort of an unnecessary, like a ruse almost.
Like a quid pro quo type thing?
Yeah, which I'm not against. All of these things sound fine. I guess I would go to the veterans, the drug treatment, and the early childhood education. It's just, I don't think it's necessary. Like, it's a product. We tax genes. We don't tax genes to fund penguin rehabilitation.
Like, I get it. And overall, you're right. But I do like knowing where the tax revenue would go to. And I like that the fact, and look, if this is what they need to do to encourage people to vote yes,
I get it.
Awesome. Like, if that's the only reason why they're doing it, which I agree is probably the only reason why they're doing it in the language of these proposals, I don't care, but I get it. And more importantly, I do like knowing that hey, there's going to be additional funding. If one of these measures actually passes, there's going to be additional funding for these very important services.
That's fine. Okay, we'll do marijuana, but only to fund Ice Cream Wednesdays or something like, pizza on Fridays. Okay, I guess, I don't know. It doesn't have anything to do with it.
Man,
it should be legal because there's no problem with it. I think,
look at this Grinch who stole reefer. Like, what's going on?
Oh, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, right?
We should make that. But it would be Jeff Sessions.
It would.
It kind of looks like a little elf. Okay.
All right, so yesterday on the main show, we did talk a little bit about marijuana legalization or efforts to legalize marijuana in Utah with Proposition 2. So this is a little more complicated because apparently, the Mormons in the state of Utah, it's a pretty big voting bloc, did not want to legalize marijuana, but they did strike some sort of deal. So it appears that marijuana will be legalized. Our producer, Dan Evans, wrote in our notes, weird situation, we're going to legalize medical marijuana, but both for and against sides have called a truce. So look into that, but either way, I don't really think it's that important. It needs to be legalized.
The basic idea is that the main Mormon advocacy group or whatever is getting in front of what looked like a form of legalization that they were not a fan of, and said that they would sign on if it was scaled back slightly. The specifics are, I don't know the specifics. You'll have to look that up. But that's what it looked like. And I would say there's all sorts of legal products that you're under no obligation to put into your body.
There's what?
There's all sorts of stuff that's legal that you don't have to use. Mormons don't use all sorts of things, totally fine, that's their religion. They don't have to use this either.
Well, exactly. I mean, this is the ongoing issue that I have with religious rule over our lives. I mean, if you are religious, awesome. I think you should have the liberty to be religious. You should be able to practice your religion. I don't think the government should be able to stop you. But that doesn't mean that you get to force your religion on other people. So I don't think that Christians, Mormons, Jewish people, Muslims, whatever, should be telling anyone what they can do with their bodies, what they can smoke, what they can eat. You practice your religion. I don't need to practice your religion if I don't believe in it.
I will say I will never force a Mormon to smoke weed.
I will never force anyone to smoke weed because that's.
You might encourage it though.
I mean,
I'm kidding.
Yeah, okay. So marijuana legalization, this continues in Florida with Amendment 11. So this isn't so much about legalization. This is more about the criminalization of marijuana. So currently, even if marijuana is decriminalized in the future, people can still be prosecuted for possession. Approval of Amendment 11 would relax this rule.
Yes. So it sort of smooths the path in the future to if there is legalization, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there was a measure that was supposed to be on that would legalize, but it didn't qualify for one or another reason. So it was taken off, but they are expecting that for 2020, it would likely come back. So if this passes, then in 2020, if they legalize it, then the legal situation for people who had previously gone down under those laws will be improved.
Exactly. So let's go to Michigan and North Dakota. There are efforts to legalize marijuana for recreational use. With Michigan, it's Proposal 1, North Dakota, Measure 3. I just wish the federal government would come in, declassify marijuana as a Schedule I drug, just legalize it for recreational use, but regulate it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't want teenagers smoking pot. I don't want them to have access to it. I do want it to be taxed, and I just don't want people to be put in prison for simple possession of marijuana, which is something that happens all the time, despite the fact that Ann Coulter denies that happens.
Yeah. Well, she'd know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I agree. And it's awesome to see that the momentum that we saw in previous elections has continued. Like every cycle, you get multiple states taking another go at it.
The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.